So maybe we could start off just with the panelists introducing yourself. Give us your name, where you work, what you do, and just maybe one fun fact about yourself. And I can start with that. My name is Jeffrey Travis. I'm the founder of Positron, a virtual reality company that produces VR films and makes motion VR chairs. And fun fact, I got to meet Putin once in Russia before the war started, and that's a story for another day. But interesting, it was an interesting experience. He sat in one of our VR chairs.
Wow. Wow. My name is Mike Bundlie. I run a couple companies, started a design company called Poets Road 25 years ago, and I have a feature film company called Abstract Entertainment. We do feature films and NFT projects and gaming and just a wide variety of whatever sounds like fun, I think is the way that we go on. Fun fact, I'll play off of yours, which was at one point we were doing an emoji app with Putin. And
no, amazing.
Right, just before 2016 decided to drop that project.
Cool. I'm Davide. Nice to meet you. I'm the creative director and founder of 150 Up, a creative agency based in Milano, and we work basically with fashion, food, and design customer. Fun fact, I got like 5 people working, looking exactly at me right now because like I have the studio in the window of the street and it's 10 p.m. Yeah, and the people are looking inside, try to figure it out what I'm still doing at the office. And probably I will invite them to join over.
Nice. Jeff?
Green Jeff?
Green Jeff?
Oh, me. Hello.
Yes.
My name's Jeff Greenberg. I'm a frustrated filmmaker who went into education and consulting around it. Back in a different century. If you will. And I don't know. The problem with having a fun fact is, how self-effacing do you get? Here, aside from all the AI, tech, and fun stuff, here's my fun fact for the week about me. Kickbox for about 5-6 years, full contact, hard art, never got hurt. Really little neat, little stuff. My three-year-old, that week ago Monday gave me this.
Ouch.
There's your fun fact.
That's tough.
And that's why I'm wearing dark glasses, because it hides it.
Nice.
Good job. That's great, Jeff. Thank you. Is that it for our panelists? Do we have anyone else?
Is Nick one of our panelists? I think he is.
I'm here as well. I'm Nick.
Oh, great.
I am the director of marketing currently for Boris FX Continuum. And fun fact about me, well, I'll give you 2. I've known Jeff for, I think it's 10 years to this date, almost close to 10 years at the Editor's Retreat. And another fun fact is I have a signed copy directly from Richard Branson of one of his books when I filmed him about 25 years ago now.
Wow, very cool.
Oh, that's very cool. Very, very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for the introduction. Maxime asked me to maybe help moderate here, but really this is an open discussion with our panelists here around AI. And as the first question, I'll throw this out. What is the most exciting thing that you have seen in AI this year so far? Something that you're excited about?
Good question. For me, the most exciting thing with AI that I've seen is just the use of video with AI. So watching, where video can be. We do a lot of motion capture. We do a lot of, VFX and compositing and stuff like that, and seeing where AI can be used for motion and for some of the things that we're doing, and also stylistic representation, I think is really interesting to me. Also, looking to see where AI is going in terms of individual artist style and being able to sort of self-teach AI models, I think is going to be another place that I'm curious to see where it goes, so that we don't end up with the same repeated AI style imagery over and over again.
So Mike, are you saying we don't know if it's you speaking? It could be your AI avatar that's doing this in real time.
Oh, I'm in my pajamas, actually. This has all been 3D and pre-canned, so.
Well, I don't know if you
That's great.
saw, like, that's really breaking news that whether or not Mike's here. Yesterday, Jimmy, Mr. Beast had a
Yep.
major
Yeah.
fake going on out there, asking for $2 for iPhones. And,
Yep.
you know, that's sort of the fear, Jeff, with a lot of this stuff is how soon, how easy before, you know, 11 Labs, my voice, all that stuff makes us, makes all of it a little scary. So
Speaking of 11 Labs, sorry, I had I've actually cloned my voice with 11 Labs. And that to me, in some levels, is very exciting as a content creator, but not in the level of complete replication. I find that to be very excited in terms of being able to do pickups inside of content creation for videos and educational videos that I do. And there's another aspect to that which I find exciting in being able to speak another language with 11 Labs in my voice, which I wasn't able to do. So this whole idea of being able, where audio dub recording is going to completely change over the next few years is exciting to me.
I'm totally with you. Like mix up audio and then video as well all together. Like unbelievable. I get sick of about like Stable Diffusion lately. And I still got the feeling that I'm like scratching the surface, and we are all scratching the surface, but everything is moving so quick that I think like I have to keep up the pace now, because like what is coming next, it's something that I like unbelievable and really fast.
Very cool. What besides Midjourney and the voice tools, what are some of the tools, just for our guest here, if you could mention some of the AI tools you're currently using that you mentioned?
Mind if I go first on this one?
Jeff, yeah, go for it. Yeah, that'd be great.
So, I mean, the obvious ones are ChatGPT, and I'm also playing between Bard and Anthropic's Claude for LLMs. But if you didn't see it, I think the panel probably saw it, but people listening might not. DALL-E 3 dropped on Bing before it's dropped to most of us, although it's beginning to get active in the apps. And it's a really solid competitor for Midjourney, which has been the king of those pieces. And then the other two is a little bit of Pixel Labs and a lot of Runway this past couple months.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Wonder is an interesting tool. Wonder AI just came out, and you know, it's a video platform. It's an invite only, but it's a they're really trying to merge that sort of real-time video, or not real time, but I mean, like, you know, much faster motion capture and compositing. And also we've been working on our own AI learning structures. So we've been teaching different systems to do different things, because from my standpoint, one of the biggest limitations, of course, is the AI is only as good as what it's taught. And so with it not being able to understand, like, you know, you're dealing with a feature, it doesn't understand what that character is. So trying to get, you know, Midjourney to replicate the same character twice, like, forget it. It doesn't know what that character is. So you can create a character called Johnny. You know, yes, I have this amazing image, but I'll never see Johnny from the same angle, or, you know, from different angles, because it doesn't know what Johnny is. So being able to then teach our own AI that tool, and then start to, you know, reference and rotate around that character and see that character replicated, so it knows it as a thing, is something that I think is, you know, a tool set that I'm hoping, you know, we end up using very soon.
That's great.
To reiterate what Jeff was saying, I've played with Pika Labs quite a bit recently, just to be able to take a still and see what's generated in terms of video, which is exciting, through Discord and the beta. I've been using Kyber and Kyber AI for video generation as well. What is interesting about them is that they are one of the servers that allow for the most amount of video. So you could upload up to, you know, get a result of 4 minutes of content. And they have a feature which allows for audio reactivity. Their initial results were, you know, the kind of Gen AI that was, it wasn't video per se. It wasn't like steady video that's being produced by Runway now, as well as Pika. but they've recently introduced a better interpolation in terms of frames, which is cool to take a
Yeah,
look.
there is
And-
the deal.
Yeah.
Like the frame interpolation is always really tricky.
Yeah, and then the last thing is, Photoshop is their Gen AI tools, and just being able to do set extensions with video. It's
Yep.
so simple and easy,
Yep.
like where you can like just extend your canvas and then say type, and you get 3 results on either side. And it's pretty seamless if you're just looking to do that. And then I want to explore more about that and like bringing it into video apps and Premiere Pro and so forth as well. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yep. That was definitely a game changer.
That's great. So given that everyone here seems to be involved with media production and AI, it's super interesting to kind of hear some of the tools you've been using. What are your thoughts on, the recent, resolution with the WGA strike and of course the ongoing actor strike in terms of the AI concerns? And, I think that's it puts anyone in the kind of the media production in an interesting position, right? In terms of these tools are so powerful, and yet what does it mean for the future of the creative artists, right? The writers and performers. So just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I wasn't that touched closely until like my colleague in the studio cloned my voice and start to send audio messages on WhatsApp on my behalf. And like in the moment, like I heard the first audio message, I say, "Oh, now I perfectly got it." And so like I don't have like a really straight position. I'm more in advertising, but still like, I mean, heard yourself telling something that you didn't add something.
I think it's an incredibly difficult thing, and it's an important conversation to have. I think that in the same way that, the goal is to always future-proof any negotiation, right? But seeing future-proof and where we are with AI is basically anachronistic. It doesn't make sense right now that we're saying that we're going to know what AI is going to be doing or not doing. I think that it's a conversation that should continue to be open. At the same time, I think that there's so many fears around. I mean, there's people right now that think that AI can, you can walk by a camera and it'll take a single picture of you, and then now that's it. And you're a leading, you're as a leading man, you're doing all these impassioned acting things, and it's unfortunate because it's such the realm of sci-fi for those of us that are actually working in it that it doesn't make sense. At the same time, you want to alleviate those fears and also try to talk to where it could be. I think that AI. In fact, this whole conference about creativity and the question of how does AI affect creativity, is AI creative? And at least right now, I feel like AI is still a tool, and that even the best AI that I've seen is still just a tool that is only as good as the creative person behind it.
I'll see the WGA did a phenomenal job of saying X amount of number of writers in the room as a method of protection. I'm on the fear side, much more scared for voice talent first and then actor talent second. But right now, does me, the consumer, want to listen to Harry Potter with all the original cast doing the entire book? Absolutely, I do. Does me as a voice, as a content creator, fear for that? Absolutely, I do. And this thing with Beast that just happened is a great example of bad actors in the domain, and we're going to see that. I'm hoping that the WGA and what they're doing with around gaming, that they've managed to work out a method to protect these people. Because if I was an aspiring actor and I was really good, I'd be scared to death. Right? If I was a VO artist, not to play into the fear,
Right.
To continue like the conversation about voiceovers, there's one part that excites me about it, and that is for some of the films that I used to watch with audio dub recordings, like from Italian actors and Spanish actors and any foreign film, to have that actor's voice be translated into English and to hear how they actually talk, I think is a great extension. But what's equally scary is what Jeff just said. The fact of that most commercials, when it comes to voiceovers, for people who are making a living off voiceovers on for an extra paycheck, the digital voices that are being reproduced by several services, that's extremely scary to me. And then
Well,
I haven't really thought so much about bringing back dead actors into, the present. And I don't know what that means for estates, but it is definitely something that I think involves much more conversation amongst people who are using these AI tools and what that means for creators in the future.
Well, Nick, to your point about the voices, it's an interesting question because Jeff, you mentioned the voiceover actor, and if you're watching a movie and you have Clint Eastwood speaking, or The Simpsons, let's take The Simpsons. I mean, The Simpsons famously are, recorded around the world by different actors, and there's plenty of people that grew up with The Simpsons in Mexico, and then all of a sudden, hear Homer Simpson in English, and they're like, that's not Homer Simpson, that's not his voice, like because they know the Mexican version of it better,
Right.
and but then from that standpoint, if you are an actor playing a character, it doesn't make sense. I mean, the argument could be made that actor should have the first right to be the voice in every language, and so that everybody's hearing the same universal character. But then I'm sure obviously if you're the voiceover in that language dubbing that character, you'd be wondering, well, I don't want
of course.
that to be the case. So and even that though, that's not really an AI question. That's just simply a acting negotiation legal question.
Well, the deep and in a creativity conference, I hate us to dwell too much on the negative. I just did a talk for UNESCO, which is the UN's arm for information, and part of the discussion around AI, and it was all about AI. It was a conference last week. It's free, it's streamable. But the big fear here is a question of parity and equality for nations that don't have necessarily the first and easiest access to these tools. And, if you're somebody in a very small country who's got acting skill, do you ever get seen? Because now, we can just dub it right into your native language. And I don't pretend to have an easy answer for this.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I don't.
That's a really good observation. Yeah.
But outside of the creativity element, you have things like the fact that AI was just shown to be as effective for breast cancer analysis as a doctor. And so you talk about smaller countries where they don't have access to having mammograms being available, or a doctor that's able to read the mammograms. The fact that, in the not too distant future, you have an iPad that within seconds could actually read. So in terms of availability of AI, separate from creativity, but AI as a tool set to create parity, I think is another. I mean, there's all positives and negatives that keep coming.
I love the idea that we have much more medical, accessible, easier access. I also have that Dunning-Kruger fear where, we right now have physicians. I've got a first cousin who's a neurologist, Mass General, Boston. But, the idea that he's got clients who come in who go, oh, well, I looked this up on Google. It's going to be, so much worse.
Yeah.
And yet may save more lives.
Right. That's what ChatGPT said I have, right? This is their diagnosis. Yep.
Exactly.
That's true.
My doctor has a sign on his door and say, if you want to have a second opinion after Google, ask Yahoo. And this was fair enough.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I wonder if there is in a best case scenario where a lot of the things we're talking about where AI, like in the case of voiceover actors, and great point about, say voiceover actors in other countries, right, that are the local talent who have traditionally done the localization and dubbing are going to be completely replaced. Is it a matter of reimagining what the creativity of the talent is going to look like? I think about, to use an example from the film industry, right? 50 years ago, right, color correction, they called it color timing, right? The skill was all about learning to mix the right chemicals and how long you leave them while the film is processing to achieve a certain look. And of course, people who do color correction today, there's no connection at all to that sort of physical process. Look at that. Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
tool.
And yet it's an understanding of the desired result. So is it possible, for example, that voiceover actors will, just really become good at working the AI tools to generate any kind of voice, right? That fulfills the creative needs or what they want to bring. Getting away from our own physical limit, our own physicality of our voices. It's kind of interesting to think about what reimagine, right? What these kind of roles. And so I'm curious if you think what other creative roles are going to be redefined in terms of what AI is going to enable people to do.
I think that, and I mentioned this in a previous talk, it was with Katie, who is a technologist, that, technology is something that will always exist. And it's been whether it was Da Vinci, being able to enlarge images in order to create art. But I was using the Ansel Adams reference that Ansel Adams, was at the dawn of cameras. But we look back at his images and can understand the beauty and creativity in how he framed his images, even though the technology has gotten to the point that any 2-year-old can take photos of mountains. But I think maybe I'm an optimist in terms of our abilities as humans to understand creativity and understand the innate, in the same way that people can look at a Mid-Journey image, and even someone who doesn't know AI can sense the difference in it. I do think that in the same way you look at an Ansel Adams and understand the beauty of it, even if you don't speak art, I think that just innately our brains and our sensitivity to AI will continue to grow. We're not, it's not us that are in this room that will look at it in 50 years. It'll be the people that have grown up around it in 50 years that will speak it in a very different way.
I love that. I love the idea that suddenly somebody who's struggling to get access for a really good writing teacher, somebody to push their creativity, could put a significant prompt into a tool, and it starts leading them into breaking out of their own boundaries of what they think is possible at a dream level or a creative level. I think that's, the shining example here is I don't need to have necessarily localized the best teacher if the tools can give me above adequate. Of course, the best teacher out there may not have as good of a career. It's that balance is wonderful, and it's going to be painful and joyful all at the same time.
Right.
Going back to the voiceover space, I hope that we see a future where artists who are, making a living off of voiceover are able to potentially, if they want, digitize their voice and be able to use that voice in a way where people will be able to see it and then pay them the rights to use it in the future, and using human voices instead of some of those clone voices that are there. There seems to be some opportunities being opened up in some of the tools. And on another level, I think with these Gen AI tools for creative companies just starting out, of anywhere from 2 to 10 people, having the ability to be in 2 years, which took large corporations 10 or 15 years to get to, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for small teams to take advantage of, utilizing and learning these tools and having an advantage compared to bigger competitors. So those are things that I think are exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, could agree more, Nick. Yeah, go ahead, Davide.
And no, I think in the way we work, what it changed a lot, but it didn't, we try with just use Mid-Journey for storyboard, for instance, because it was really easy. For us, the big point is before the shooting, visualize the final idea, and until now, it's just about finding reference. Until actually 4 months ago, was just about finding references and then sketch everything. And actually this one was fine, but at the end you have to have the client with a lot of sensibility to actually understand the final result. And so we try to sketch everything, to do everything in Mid-Journey, from storyboard, and then do step by step motion with images after images. And we did it for actually 4 or 5 projects. But then, trust me, we were, I don't know how to say, so sad that we say, okay, we need this guy with the pen. I don't know what to say, like, because like probably the final result was even better for the customer, but like the feeling of like sketching and doing and like erasing things like missed so much that like I didn't say, okay, the romantic part will stay romantic and will stay there. Then like a couple of frames, we can visualize it in Midjourney and then it's fine.
Well, but going to that point, I remember not like maybe a few months ago, I kept hearing how, storyboarding artists are dead. Like there's no, basically all you have to do is take a script and spit it into Midjourney.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you have a storyboard. And I was
a
like,
lot
no,
of
it
tutorials
really
on
isn't.
YouTube about
So
it.
I ran it, even just last week, I ran this test. So we had, now if you're doing something like a contemporary commercial, I understand the ability for it. But again, because it only knows what it knows, I ran a Civil War script through not Midjourney, but a similar tool. And let's just say that it went from futuristic spaceships based on the script to you're supposed to have this the Civil War battle, and you have guys driving tanks down, and like it has no contextual reference for enough information in order to actually produce that kind of to keep something consistent. So it's I do think that there's always going to be, at least until all of these AIs connect to each other, which would maybe that's the Terminator Armageddon moment where everybody's like, you know what, I'm tired of paying 35 grand a month to teach my AI. So Nick, you and I, let's connect our our AIs, and Jeff and DAvide, we're going to connect ours, and then eventually they all connect to each other, and then
mine's
then
on the
poof,
missile
we're dead.
system. Totally my fault. It's on the missile
Yeah,
system.
but
I
maybe
forgot to tell you.
that's
No,
if we
but
haven't
Mike,
taught it that we're supposed
Mike,
to live.
but
then.
that's part of what I was talking about last week at this event, this UN event, is the struggle with representation, the struggle with clarity and transparency about tools. Like I have such, I think such, I don't know if it's admiration or chutzpah or whatever, but OpenAI's company's name is OpenAI, and it's anything but open. And
Right,
that part is the biggest pain, because while at least with Stable Diffusion, I can grab models and I can kind of see people publishing, because so many of these phenomenal open source available tools, Diffusion B is just like the easiest thing for a Macintosh user to use. I look at some of these groups and I go, who's controlling the content? Who's saying what's good, what's bad, what's evil? And I think, there's some parallels with that with creativity. Sometimes we all have dark creative moments. Sometimes we all have bright creative moments. Sometimes we write the cliche. Sometimes we don't. It greatly worries me when these commercial models are touted and we have no clue about what sort of inclusion, what sort of balance
what's going in,
occurs.
right?
And of course, the answer is always the same. You go, well, who should make that decision? The answer is really easy. It's me. I'm cool with that.
Of course.
Right. Right.
Just ask Jeff.
Yeah.
That's right. But I mean,
Yeah.
like we're all comfortable making that choice for ourselves. But when we're at the whim of somebody else, that becomes problematic.
Yeah, you raise a great point, Jeff, and this is a topic I've seen brought up quite a bit. That we've seen, right, the issue of bias and some of the AI data and algorithms that come out, and especially when we don't know what's actually going into it. And I'm curious what people here think. What are possible solutions, right, to address this, to ensure that as we're going to start seeing far more content that is AI assisted or generated, right? How do we think about it being equitable and free of the biases and free of some of the problems, right, that will just become a doom loop if not addressed soon enough.
I think that looking at what the music industry has done is a great reference point, in the sense that if the AI companies are actually required to record what influences what models they're feeding, or what data they're feeding their models, and then pay a very tiny royalty out to those people based on their earnings, then everybody's fine. Everybody's happy. I mean, because I would actually love if there was more reference, because I'm tired of, you put into Midjourney that you want an action hero holding a gun in a suit, and it's always Jason Statham. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just, it only knows bald Jason
Right.
Statham dudes. And like,
That's
right.
true.
Yeah.
So
I can-
Adobe has been, they're proposing the idea, since their materials, Firefly, have been trained on Adobe stock, they're at least ethically sourcing or talking about ethically sourcing back to imagery. I'm not sure how we do that as easily with 11 Labs and voice. I'm not sure, but this idea of transparency of training data and acknowledgement, what is it, George R.R. Martin, somebody else are suing OpenAI
yeah.
because it was trained on their writing.
Right.
I want to just say I completely agree with you, Jeff and Mike, in terms of just transparency with the tools that we're using to find out what data that they're referencing. And I think that there's also a level of choice that has to go to the user who's paying for these services of how they decide to use this content. In that, there will be a series of bad actors who are going to take advantage. But I'll tell you, like, I love Midjourney. I use it all the time. I do not use it for specific content. I use it for abstract imagery. I feed it my own photos to describe, to figure out how to talk to it, to figure out if I can kind of produce something along those lines. And then it ends up being a part of an overall composition or story, and a very small part in some cases. Sometimes that's fueled to a plugin or effect that can take advantage of that still or abstract imagery. In other cases, it's even less, but rarely, like I can say, Mike, you'll get the results that you're looking for if you're trying to be more specific. And I would show the still by itself,
Of course,
unless it was like to create video from it.
But
Just
obviously there's still limitations. In fact, and maybe Jeffrey, I would love to ask these guys and all of you guys a question, which is, just as a visual artist, it's been fascinating to me that something that is so ubiquitous in the Photoshop world of having a filter that is applied to something is still not represented within how AI works. So if you feed it an image of your own and ask it, I'll just use the basic example. I take a picture of myself and I say I want to see a Rembrandt version of this image of me. I don't want a version that looks 50% like me, but I want that exact image to look like as if Rembrandt painted it, which in theory should be incredibly easy for AI to understand, a Rembrandt-esque thing and create that thing. And yet it is, I have not seen anything that actually is taking your image and applying, basically using AI as that level of filter. Yeah, please, Jeff. Or Jeff.
I'm slow in pressing my mute button because I try to be, right. The Lensa AI was really early in figuring out how to give it 10 or 20 images. And they're basically seem to have figured out how to plug and play and go, you want to look like science fiction, you want to look like cowboy, you want to look like cyberpunk. They've figured out a certain level of that. But absolutely, you're dead on in, hey, I just want this to be black and white. And black and white is the simplest item. Remove saturation.
Yeah.
And the AI just doesn't have that conceptually.
Yeah.
So, there's these tools. They don't know, which is beautifully fascinating to me because, well, that sounds very much like why I'm in therapy. That sounds really like an intelligence issue there.
But you mentioned George Martin, and like a bunch of authors have actually asked for in the lawsuit for ChatGPT to remove their books from the references. The problem is the problem is that they as they've said, they can't unteach it, because once it's been learned, they actually have to reset the entire model. It's kind of like asking someone, hey, it's like asking a jury, here's a picture. Well, strike that. Okay, well, now forget that you ever saw it. Like, good luck. It's just not going to happen. You can't forget.
Men in Black.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's,
you can't take it out.
Which is really
but
interesting.
Right.
I challenge everyone like to make a panda in New York. Like, because for a project, like I was like putting animals into like urban spaces, and like probably like the panda is targeted to Asia only, and like there is no like possibility to have like Eastern people with a panda next to Midjourney. So like all of this clash, it's always like funny because probably he's scanning it a lot, but then at the end he cannot make it. So even if you describe like 100 times, you never get it. So like
Right.
this one gives me still some hope.
I want to check that this isn't right. I'm trying to bring up my panda in New York. I just built
Like try it now on Midjourney.
right there.
Real-time experiment here.
No. Try like also to put like full of people or like crowded New York. But I use Midjourney. Okay, perfect.
I'll
Okay,
come back and I'll let you
great.
know. All right, but I'm not playing fair. I'm not using Midjourney. I'm using the latest
okay,
edged
okay.
case, right? I'm using Dolly.
Dolly
and-
3,
and-
right?
Ah.
Oh, beautiful. By the way, David, you're my new
Did it work?
hero today. No, it
Let
didn't.
me see it.
It didn't. And I want to
It
show
wasn't
you
able
that
to?
it didn't work. It did create it, but it didn't. Look at that. Let me make this bigger.
I told you. Look at the people.
Faces.
I told you. Like it's impossible.
But
At
this
the
I
end,
wanna see
I
bigger.
did it in Photoshop.
I want to see this bigger.
Okay, there are some. But
That's not
still
bad.
like half and half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look
But
at
you're
how many
right
claws
on.
that thing has.
Look.
I don't all pandas look like that?
Yeah, but you talk about levels of abstraction too. To David's point, if you then added where every person in the space, well, I'll give you an example. When I was little, my dad used to take a piece of paper and he'd write down like 4 different themes, and one would be like a 4-legged frog holding wearing a top hat and a bow tie while dancing, and then I had to draw that as a kid, and then like he would keep making all of these abstracted concepts for me to like just draw. But you ask Midjourney to do anything more than 1 or 2 layers of abstraction. I don't mean description, but of abstraction, and it falls apart so fast. So if you asked for that panda to be in a crowded street in New York, obviously it still put half of them as being Chinese, which because of its reference, or Dali. But then if you say with all of them wearing top hats and blue suits and having with a spaceship flying through above, a child can understand that instantly, like they can picture that in their head, but Dali and Midjourney falls apart because it just becomes too many, levels of abstraction. So I do
I'm
think
generating it now, Mike, just to see.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to tell you. Yeah.
So I
but
want to
like
ask. Oh, go ahead.
No, for me, like at the moment are amazing tool of like pre-visualizing, but like final result still far. Like everyday life for visualizing. Okay, you got it.
Right. There we go. That's pretty good. I like.
Where
It's
are all
working
the
pretty
people?
well.
Where's it's they're all wearing a panda. I wanted one panda. I wanted the rest of it being people.
Yeah.
It's okay. If we're
Yeah, it might
getting
just be a
closer,
prompt issue, right? A single panda with many humans or something.
I mean, if when I think about what you just said, Mike, by the way, I like your dad. Your dad, like I have to tell you, that's like from my creative heart. It's just a great story. I think of that as, okay, you probably went off and it was a great way to get you occupied for like 15 minutes. I got 3 kids here and we haven't been disturbed yet. I expect that to happen.
Nice.
I don't have something that good and I might steal it. But
Right.
here it is. It took me 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And it's a question of capability in language, not with physical skill. And to David's point, this organic error nature, maybe the soft tissue things that make organic, I think still is that differential with these tools, so that without the human artist, maybe there's a little animus, maybe there's a little magic missing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I know we only have like 2 or 3 minutes left here. Maybe want to open it up to anyone listening. If you want to ask some questions for our panelists, just put it in the chat. Go ahead in here. We'll give our panelists a chance to respond.
Can I just quickly share what Midjourney did with the same info?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it put the panda in the blue suit. And
But
made him
it put
like
it in a
space panda.
pixel way.
Yep. And it's funny
In
how
a spacesuit.
yeah, it's in spacesuits because of the spaceship. So it lost the abstraction of the spaceship and couldn't understand the spaceship. So it put him in the spacesuit. So
I don't know, man. I think we've
Makes
got panda astronauts or whatever. we
Panda
wanna call them.
astronauts, yeah. There's a movie here somewhere.
are there any
sure.
questions out there?
Well,
So
firstly,
far-
I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was a very enlightening discussion about AI and in relation to creativity. So again, and everyone in this current room, feel free to
Don't
muck
shut this
in.
down yet. Don't shut it down yet, George. I got to ask
Oh,
you.
I'm
you're
not shutting it
clearly
down. I'm
the-
not shutting it down. I was just personally very
You're the
keen to
youngest
get-
man here, though. I just want to hear a perception from you for a moment. What do you think of these tools? You know, this has got to, you're sitting right in the face of us. We all here have this like past experience, some of it, a lot of it tactile. What about you?
Jeff, I absolutely wasn't shutting it down. I
okay.
wanted to open the door to discussion. So yeah, personally, being at university at this time is quite an interesting. It's quite interesting in relation to AI. So, for example, I know a lot of people who get fairly decent marks using ChatGPT, which is quite interesting, but also scary, right? So I guess we were talking about how AI couldn't deal with certain levels of abstraction. So I guess my question following on from that is if AI is able to replicate a depth, does abstraction then become obsolete?
Anyone want to take that?
Difficult
I'd probably throw down right away that, you know, the beautiful thing about abstraction is the abstract concept. 6 different items, 7 different items based on the faces here, times a million. If, you know, is the barometer a temperature and a seed number? And if, oh, I give you the same seed and you'll get the same result. Is that really an abstraction, or is that just representation or a reproduction of an algorithm? And then, you know, I can give you the other side, which is the algorithm. We don't have the seed number, but it's, you know, that organic set of tissues firing in our brain.
Can I throw out that at least in terms of art, I mean, art is about narrative, right? So what made a Rothko, any different than somebody who painted a canvas red? You have the story behind the intention is what makes it the art, not necessarily the art itself. So an AI can't replicate that.
But the guy who wrote the prompts,
Yeah, to a degree, at some point, I think if you, but even then, the guy who wrote, or the woman who wrote the prompt is going to need to justify not just the expression, like an expression of a pointillist painting is a description of a pointillist painting. It doesn't create the intent for the pointillist painting.
That's
And
a nice
also
one.
the reason why it was created in the first place. Yeah, I know. Of course, exactly. Carol. Yeah.
Sorry, there might be a bit of delay here, but you were talking about teaching before, and having gone through university during COVID and doing online learning, do you think that AI can ever get to a point where teaching can produce equivalent results online to being in person, or can that never be achieved?
And George, sorry to interrupt you. We do have 2 questions from the audience. Can we take those before we?
Of course,
have a lot of time.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we have a question from Kirk. Says, I use an AI service for client engagement for my real estate business in New York City. As great as automation is, I struggle to find quality control for the client's conversations. do you find quality control being the biggest hurdle AI needs to overcome, and how can we get past this?
Put it
Your
at the
thoughts
bottom
on
of a
quality
barrel and just
control.
beat it until it gives us the right answer. Isn't that how LLMs work?
Right.
But
Yeah.
but
You know,
if
getting
even
that
if you hired-
variance,
yeah.
getting that variance, getting that, hey, that was great, but I need him with red hair. I'd like it, that person with different color eyes is nearly impossible to get right
Yep.
now. And that's why these tools are so nascent.
Mhm.
But also to that question, and I typed in an answer on Kirk, but also think about that's also like saying it's really hard to hire good help. And, you know, I mean, you can hire 40 different servers at a restaurant, but that doesn't mean they're all going to be perfect servers.
I think at the speed at which technology is going in general, before even AI existed, that there was a problem with quality control in terms of the products and things that are going out there. So I definitely think that this is something that needs to be addressed at a higher level. And also with AI, and I agree with the sentiments that it's very hard to get something specific out of something like Midjourney. In some of these prompts that I have played with, I think InPainting has brought in a little bit of help along those lines, but my overall belief is that there is something to embrace in terms of ideation with Midjourney and all these Gen AI image platforms that exists beyond the specific and more for helping with the creative process as a whole versus something that you're looking for in terms of a specific result. And in that ideation process, just like ChatGPT, permutations with Midjourney, there becomes a lot of power there as content creators that you can explore to create your own imagery outside of those platforms too.
Apologies, I have to jump in here and